Queen Elizabeth II's body is now beside the Duke of Edinburgh's after being temporarily kept in the royal vault in the grounds of Windsor Castle. Queen Elizabeth II has been buried alongside her beloved husband of 73 years, Prince Philip, during an intimate and final send-off for the monarch at King George VI Memorial Chapel, Windsor. The late monarch's coffin made its final journey to the resting place inside Windsor Castle on Monday afternoon. Following a committal service, attended by members of the firm, royal staff past and present, and world leaders, the Queen was laid to rest in an intimate ceremony at 7:30 p.m., with just her nearest and dearest present. To conclude the committal service, the late monarch's coffin was lowered into the royal vault, where the Duke of Edinburgh was laid to rest during his funeral on April 17. While the Queen's coffin was lowered into the vault, the Dean of Windsor said a psalm, before the Garter King of the Arms pronounced the styles and titles of the Queen. But the resting place was just temporary for the late monarch and her husband, whose final resting place is in King George VI Memorial Chapel, joining a number of other royal family members. The Queen was buried together with the Duke of Edinburgh, at the King George VI Memorial Chapel, an announcement on the royal family's official website said. The Queen's family, including her mother and father, and the ashes of her sister, Princess Margaret, are also buried in the chapel. The royal's final resting place makes up part of St. George's Chapel inside the grounds of Windsor Castle. The third and final service of the day, at the chapel, was attended by the Queen's closest family and friends. Although the chapel is closed for the private ceremony, ordinarily it is open to the public, meaning members of the public can visit the Queen's final resting place to pay their respects. Following her burial at the chapel, Prince Philip's coffin is set to be moved from the royal vault to his final resting place, next to his beloved wife. The Queen's father, King George VI, died in 1952 and was first interred in the royal vault, similar to the late Duke of Edinburgh. But when the memorial chapel was built 17 years later, he was moved there so that the chapel could be his final resting place. St. George's Chapel is a place of worship for the royal family, as well as a church that serves the community. It has also been host to a number of royal marriages and engagements. Most notably was Prince Harry and Meghan's wedding, which took place at the chapel in May 2018, but most recently was the wedding of Princess Eugenie and Jack Brooksbank in October 2019. Earlier in the day, crowds lined a long walk to watch the procession as Her Majesty arrived at Windsor Castle, when her coffin was transported by state hearse after a funeral at Westminster Abbey. King Charles III and his siblings, the Princess Royal, Duke of York and Earl of Wessex, had earlier marched behind their mother's coffin as it travelled the short distance from Westminster Hall, where the Queen had been lying in state for 4 days, to the ancient abbey. After a long and heartfelt day celebrating the life of Britain's longest reigning monarch, her closest family and friends said their final goodbyes at the intimate and private service at St. George's Chapel on Monday evening.